and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Yeah, I'll be continuing with my college football schedule preview and point spread prediction videos with the BYU Cougars. So BYU has 3 different conference opponents this year than last year. So last year they played Colorado, West Virginia, Texas Tech, and this year instead they will play Arizona State, Baylor, and Kansas. And it is good that they don't have to play Texas Tech because Texas Tech is currently the favorite to win the Big 12 again, and BYU is right behind them. But there's no reason for BYU to be happy about not having to play Colorado or West Virginia, and BYU can't be happy about having to play both Kansas and Arizona State because the year before last, those were the only 2 teams that beat them, and the Arizona State loss made a lot of sense, but the Kansas loss was a pretty big upset. And had BYU won one of those 2 games, they would have been in the Big 12 championship and the college football playoff. And well, I don't think Kansas is going to be very good this year. They lose Jalen Daniels at quarterback. So on paper, this is a game that BYU should win. They are still a good bit better than they were before the Lance Leopold era. And before Leopold, hardly anyone came to Kansas's home games. And while Kansas still has one of the smallest Power Four stadiums, they are selling out their games a lot better than they were before Leopold came there. And their non-conference schedule is a lot tougher than last year because last year they played Stanford for their Power Four non-conference opponent, who is one of the worst Power Four teams. But this year they'll play Notre Dame, and they do still get 2 guaranteed wins in the non-conference against Utah Tech, an FCS team, and then Colorado State, a terrible group of 5 team. But if BYU goes 11-1 and loses to Notre Dame, there is a good chance that they'll get left out of the college football playoff because in that case they would for sure go to the Big 12 championship again, which they might lose in, and that's what kept them out of the college football playoff last year. And overall, this is a pretty weak schedule. But if BYU goes 11-1 and they beat Notre Dame, I'm pretty sure they would get in the college football playoff, even if they were to lose the Big 12 championship. Now, if BYU goes 10-2 and they lose to Notre Dame, I'm almost certain they would get left out of the college football playoff. But if they go 10-2 and they beat Notre Dame, I'd say they have over a 50% chance of making it into the college football playoff, as long as they didn't get into the Big 12 championship and lose. And I would give BYU a decent chance of pulling the upset against Notre Dame because they get the game at home. And BYU's stadium is not large, but it is one of the loudest stadiums in college football. And they've only lost one home game in the last 2 years. And this is a nice time to get to play Iowa State because Iowa State, I think, is going to have a rough year because they've clearly downgraded with coaching, and Matt Campbell took nearly the whole team with him. And the toughest two-game stretch on this schedule, I think, is hosting Arizona State and then going on the road to Utah, which is their in-state rival and only true rival. And this is a very bitter rivalry. These two teams don't like each other at all. And this, I think, is going to be a tough game. I don't think Utah is going to fall apart, at least not this year, because I actually feel a lot better about Utah than I do Iowa State, even though I think Kyle Whittingham is a better coach than Matt Campbell is. Utah hired from within, and I actually like the hire they made, and they kept a lot more of their players than Iowa State did. Utah, I think, has a good chance to make it in the AP preseason top 25. BYU, though, I think is going to make it in the AP preseason top 15. But not only is it about the team, Utah's a tough place to play because while they have a small stadium like BYU, they have a very loud stadium. Arizona State doesn't have as high expectations as last year, but I doubt they'll be ranked in the preseason because they had a little bit of a disappointing season in 2025, and they do lose a lot on their roster. So you would think right now this is a game that BYU would win, but I do like Kenny Dilling at Ham, and I would expect him to put out a decent team onto the field. And remember that in 2024, when Arizona State did win the Big 12 championship, they were picked last in the conference. So do not count out Arizona State. And it is a tough start to the conference schedule for BYU against Arizona, a team that I think is a serious contender to win the Big 12 in 2026. The Big 12, I think, is still the most wide open conference in the Power Four. And because of how wide open it is, the games against Central Florida and Baylor and Cincinnati, I won't say are 99% sure wins for BYU, but they are very likely wins for them, in my opinion. No one is scared about having to go to Central Florida, and there's nothing about these three teams' roster or coaching staff to make me think that they're going to be any good this year. So I don't think BYU's bye week comes at a very good time because even though it comes in between back-to-back road games, the first one against Colorado State won't be of any challenge to BYU. Now the second one, TCU, could be tough. I do like TCU's coaching staff, and they're a team that I think has a good chance of finishing ranked in the top 25 again, except they're more focused on having a great quarterback and speedy wide receivers than they are physicality. And when they played BYU last year, BYU's physicality was way too much for them to handle. If there is a minus at the beginning of the spread, that means that BYU is the favorite. If there's a plus at the beginning of the spread, that means that they're the underdog. A 20 plus spread is a blowout, and there's three of those of Utah Tech, Colorado State, and Central Florida. A 10 to 19 spread is medium, and there's four of those. Iowa State, Baylor, Kansas, and Cincinnati. The 6-9 spread is close, but there'll be a clear favorite, and there's three of those: Arizona, Notre Dame, and Arizona State. A 1-5 spread means it's almost a toss up, and there's two of those: TCU and Utah. So if I had to guess exact spreads for these games right now, I'd say BYU would be about a 50-point favorite over Utah Tech, and about a 40-point favorite over Colorado State, and about a 14-point favorite over Iowa State, and about a 20-point favorite over Central Florida, and about a 13-point favorite over Baylor, and about a 10-point favorite over Kansas, and about a 13-point favorite over Cincinnati. But not really, because I think that Kansas is going to be better than Baylor or Cincinnati, but because Kansas is on the road, and Baylor and Cincinnati are at home, and I'd say BYU would be about a 6-point favorite over Arizona, but only because it's at home. If it was on the road, that would be in the 1-5 range, and I'd say BYU will be a 3-point favorite over TCU, but only because it's on the road. If it was at home, it would be in the 6-9 range, and I'll say because it's at home that BYU will only be a 7-point underdog to Notre Dame, but if it was on the road, that would be in the 10-19 range, and I'll say BYU will be a 7-point favorite over Arizona State because they're at home for it, but on the road that would be in the 1-5 range, and I'll say BYU will be a 1-point favorite over Utah. So that'll be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.